A little while ago, I did a review on this. This is a very beautiful heavy-duty trumpet. It is the Singer's Day SDTR-2019 HD. Well, this, despite being a very beautiful trumpet, has a successor, or rather something to accompany it if you don't particularly like this aesthetic. And here it is here. This is the Singer's Day SDTR-2019B. Effectively, it is a trumpet with a very similar sort of construction, but a very different aesthetic. Instead of having a sort of brushed three-tone brass, silver, rose brass sort of aesthetic, we have a black and gold aesthetic. This trumpet also features engraving on pretty much every part of the instrument that can be engraved. We've got engraving on the inside of the bell, we've got it on the bell section, we've got it on the back of the valve cluster, we've got it on the front of the instrument, on the lead pipe. Pretty much everything that could be engraved has been engraved, and it makes a very attractive piece. It's a very nice trumpet to look at if you like this particular aesthetic. Personally, I'm probably a little bit more partial to the SDTR-2019 HD over the SDTR-2019B, but not everyone is going to be in that camp, and so you have the choice. The design of the instruments are very similar to each other. We have the fairly traditional thumb saddle on the first valve tuning slide and the ring on the third valve tuning slide. We have a typical lead pipe construction. All the slides and things move very, very smoothly. In fact, one of the things that I noticed with this is that when you go and dump water out of the water key, you actually have to make sure you hold it, otherwise you'll be pushing this tuning slide in all over the place. It is fairly loose, which is, you know, a good thing. You don't want that to be particularly tight. The valves on it are very heavy, so this is not a lightweight trumpet. This is a trumpet that has a fair bit of gravity built into it. And one of the things that I potentially would change is I would have lighter valve springs. Perfectly fine for playing. If you're a grown-up like me, then you can manage these springs. But if you are a younger person, or perhaps somebody that doesn't have the same sort of potential finger strength that me, who plays a euphonium all the time, has, then you might find these springs a little bit rough, a little bit tough to deal with. But I mean, that's not particularly difficult to replace these springs for lighter springs. Being a heavier weight trumpet, it is very easy blowing. It is very easy to make a loud noise on this. It's very easy to make a lot of noise on one of these. It's quite a direct sound, very bright sound that you get from this trumpet. But if you play quieter, you can get some nice sounds out of it too. It conserves the energy that you put in, the amount of effort that you put into playing this. Most of that comes out of the end as sound. Something that you do tend to find with lighter weight trumpets is perhaps they don't deal with that energy as efficiently, so they can make a bit of a quieter sound. But it's horses for courses. The sort of instrument that you are going to be wanting is going to be an instrument that matches the situations in that you are playing in. If you're playing outdoors or in an environment where you want to produce a lot of sound, then a heavier trumpet, something like this, is going to be very good for you. But of course, there are literally hundreds, thousands of options on the market for you. This is a reasonable trumpet. It's not an expensive trumpet. You're not going to expect something that is, you know, an artisanal craftsman type instrument, but it is a particularly good option if you particularly like this rather bold aesthetic. This is not a sort of run-of-the-mill trumpet. This is something that it says something when you have an instrument that looks like this. There are a lot of very cheap student instruments, like really bottom of the range sort of student instruments that do have the sort of coloured lacquer finish on them. This one, because of all the engraving on it, it doesn't feel the same sort of quality. It feels, you know, a step up from some of those. But that being said, there is one thing that is common amongst both of these trumpets, the 2019 HD and the B, and that is that neither of them have knurling around the valve caps or finger buttons. What I mean by that is that the surface around the the valve caps and the finger buttons are smooth. I prefer knurling, which is the sort of textured design that you get, because it gives you a bit of grip. If these valves were, if the screw threads on these were to get gummed up or corroded, it would be, there's nothing really for you to grip on here, so it could be quite difficult to undo the valve cap. So what I would recommend doing if you had an instrument similar is to put a bit of tuning slide grease around the threads here so as to prevent them from getting all gummed up. So if you do get an instrument like this, or this one, that is something that I would recommend you do. So if you're interested in an instrument like this, then there are some links down in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching.